The protagonist, who is named Tim O'Brien, begins by describing an occasion that came about within the center of his Vietnam revel. The matters they carried catalogs the range of factors his fellow infantrymen in the Alpha employer delivered on their missions. Numerous of these things are intangible, such as guilt and worry, while others are precise physical objects, consisting of matches, morphine, M16 rifles, and M&M's sweet. At some point of the gathering, the identical characters reappear in various stories. The first member of the Alpha agency to die is Ted Lavender, a grunt, or low-rating soldier, who offers with his tension approximately the war by taking tranquilizers and smoking marijuana. Lavender is shot in the head on his manor, returned from going to the bathroom, and his advanced, Lieutenant Jimmy Go, blames himself for the tragedy. While Lavender is shot, Move is distracting himself with Mind of Martha, a college crush. It is revealed in love that crosses emotions for Martha, whom he dated as soon as earlier than leaving for Vietnam, were never reciprocated, and that even 20 years after the conflict, his guilt over Lavender's demise remains. In At the Rainy River, the narrator, O'Brien, explains the collection of occasions that led him to Vietnam in the first location. He receives his draft Be Aware in June of 1968, and his emotions of misunderstanding drive him north to the Canadian border, which he contemplates crossing in order that he's going to not be compelled to fight in a warfare wherein he doesn't consider. Sitting in a rowboat with the proprietor of the Tip Top Inn, in which he stays, O'Brien decides that his guilt about avoiding the conflict and worry of disappointing his family are more crucial than his political convictions. He soon leaves, going first return domestic to Worthington, Minnesota, and later to Vietnam. Further to Ted Lavender, a few different individuals of the Alpha Enterprise are killed during their mission overseas, consisting of Kurt Lemon, who's killed whilst he steps on a rigged mortar round. Even though O'Brien is not near Lemon, in The Dentist, he tells a tale of Waze Lemon, who faints earlier than a recurring checkup with a military-issued dentist, tries to store face by means of insisting that a perfectly suitable teeth be pulled. Lee Strunk, another member of the agency, dies from injuries he sustains through stepping on a landmine. In Friends, O'Brien remembers that earlier than Strunk changed into fatally hurt, Strunk and Dave Jansen had made a percent that if either man had been irreparably harmed, the alternative guy might see that he turned into Speedy killed. But whilst Strunk is virtually harm, he begs Jansen to spare him, and Jansen complies. Rather than being dissatisfied by means of the news of his pal Swift dying en route to Remedy, Jansen is relieved. The loss of life that gets the maximum attention inside the things they carried is that of Kiowa, a far cherished member of the Alpha organization and one among O'Brien's closest buddies. In talking of courage, the story of Kiowa's loss of life is relayed on reflection via the memory of Norman Boker, years after the warfare. As Boker drives around a lake in his Iowa place of birth, he thinks that he didn't keep Kiowa, who become killed while a mortar round hit and triggered him to sink headfirst into a marshy field. O'Brien realizes that he has dealt with his guilt over Kiowa's death otherwise than Norman Boker notes. Simply before the stop of the war, O'Brien gets an extended letter from Boker that asserts he hasn't determined a manner to make lifestyle significant after the conflict. O'Brien resolves to inform Boker's story and the tale of Kiowa's dying that allows you to negotiate his personal emotions of guilt and hollowness. Like Lavender notes, several of O'Brien's testimonies are instructed from an angle 20 years after the Vietnam struggle, whilst he is a 43-year vintage creator dwelling in Massachusetts. Exposure to the guilt of antique buddies like Jimmy Pass and Norman Boker prompts him to put in writing tales so that it will understand what they had been going via. However, tales, The Man I Killed and Ambush, are written in order that O'Brien can confront his very own guilt over killing a person with a grenade out of doors, the village of Mikey. In The Person I Killed, O'Brien imagines the lifestyles of his victim, from his formative years to the way matters could have turned out for him had O'Brien now not noticed him on a course and thrown a grenade at his toes. In Ambush, O'Brien imagines how he might relay the story of the man he killed to his 9-year antique daughter, Kathleen. On this detail, O'Brien affords greater information of the actual killing, such as the sound of the grenade and his own emotions, and explains that even well after the reality, he hasn't completed finding out the Revelin. Inside the final tale, The Lives of the Useless, O'Brien offers some other twist to his contention. The testimonies have the power to save human beings. Within the tales of Kurt Lemon and Kiowa, O'Brien explains that his imagination allowed him to grapple efficaciously together with his guilt and confusion over the demise of his fourth-grade first love, Linda.